Hello again, everyone. I am back with video number 2 about surviving the cult that I was in. You may wonder about my little birdie there. I used my little birdie there out on a branch with his one little leaf because he's all alone. And sometimes leaving a cult, you can feel that way, like you're left alone out on a branch having to find your way yourself, and his wings aren't stretched out yet. Much like mine, I haven't quite been able to break away from the fear and the thoughts of, oh, they may be right. What's gonna happen if they are right? But is it worth it to stay in an abusive situation and have so much fear inside, or get out of that abusive situation and try to find your own way? I'm still trying to figure that out. And if there are other people out there in the same situation that I'm in, newly leaving a cult or thinking about leaving a cult, or a group that they're in that they feel they are trapped in by, I'm sure you can understand what I'm talking about. I know that there's a whole community out there of people who understand. And as I go further with these videos, I will definitely mention some of the people, YouTubers, and people on Facebook who have helped me and who still continues to help me. I will give them credit as we go on deeper and deeper into my story of survival. Surviving a cult is one of the very difficult things that I can say I've ever been through in my life, because when you're indoctrinated so deeply from childhood, it's hard to change your way of thinking, even when you feel like something is wrong. For a long time, I tried to believe, and I tried to be perfect. When I say perfect, I mean I try to do everything that I was told I should do. I felt like I was being watched under a microscope, and every move I made was being recorded and remembered by the people around me, including my family. My family was, from the outside looking in, the perfect type of role model for the cult. We were always out there preaching and doing the work that was commanded of us, expected of us. And if there was more that we could do, again, on the outside looking in, it looked like we were doing that. A lot of it was for show. A lot of it was so that others could see that we were in a good place, when really we weren't. Behind closed doors, there was a lot of abuse. And that was something that you just couldn't talk about. You couldn't talk about it, number one, because you're told not to talk about it. Number two, you feel this great deal of shame. And shame is one of the worst effects of abuse. What shame does is it keeps you quiet. It conveys to you that you are worthless and that you would be rejected if you did try to speak up. And I felt personally those things, and I felt like nobody would believe me. Or if they did, it would be minimized. Like, oh, well, that's just a part of growing up. You know, these things are done so that you can grow up to be a decent human being. In actuality, it was teaching me the opposite. It made me feel, again, rejected and worthless. So I tried to do more and more. I tried to do as much as I could, but the more I did, the more was expected of me in this cult. And again, I felt like I was being watched under a microscope. And if I made one mistake, I paid for it in the most harsh ways. And it wasn't just me. I had siblings that I care very much for, and we had to look out for each other. But again, when you're taught that this is the norm, you abide by it. You let things that happen behind closed doors stay behind closed doors. And you think that you're doing the right thing, even though it feels wrong. And I know that sounds weird, but that's really how it feels. It feels bad, but you think you're doing what is right. You think you're doing what you can to protect not only yourself, but the people around you that you care about. I want to talk a little bit about targeting, because in my next video, I want to start from the beginning about how we ended up in this cult. This particular cult that I was in, that I just left. If they target certain people, you know, people who may have just lost loved ones to death. They target people who are having a rough time in life, lonely people, the elderly. And in our case, my mother was a young single mother. She did not only just have me, but I had other siblings too. And again, she was young and looking for love, as she deserved very much. She wanted her family to have the security that she felt like we all deserved. So she met this man who was in this cult, and he was excommunicated at the time. So he dated my mom, but I remember it was very short time. I mean, I remember my mom going to visit this guy. He lived in another state at the time for 1 week. He came back with her, and then it was my first time meeting him. And I was told 3 days later, when the weekend was over and it was time for him to go back to his state, that they were getting married. And that to me was a shock. Again, I was only 8 years old, and I had these younger siblings, and I didn't know what targeting was back then. I mean, I thought, okay, maybe they just fell in love really quickly, and my mom wanted to get us somewhere safe, secure. I mean, where I grew up, it was kind of rough neighborhood. We lived in a neighborhood that was full of crime. And I remember walking to school one day and seeing crime scene tape wrapped around a building, you know, on my way to school, with cops and everything on the outside. I remember drive-by shootings. So that's just sort of to give you an idea of what it was like before we moved away. So the guy, he came and he moved us away, and he married my mom, and he seemed really nice. I mean, we went from living in an impoverished area to a really beautiful place. And I was thinking, okay, this might be nice. Might be like on TV, you know, where the man comes and rescues the damsel in distress, and even though my mother had children, he would take good care of us. But little did I know that it was all a ruse. It was a targeting. My family was targeted. And we can go deeply into that a little later. Right now, I'm going to go take a break, and I hope that you guys are enjoying the video. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments. And don't worry, I will talk about what cult I was in and am now breaking away from. But for now, there's the little birdie out there on his branch by himself. But hopefully he'll be able to spread his wings and fly, which I'm hoping I'll be able to do soon too. All right, you guys, I appreciate you so much for listening. Take care.